Ooh, today's is an interesting one.
Yeah, today we're going to talk about structures and the Georgia Guidestones. Josh is going to eat, what is that,
Eat
tuna
some
fish?
mixed nuts right here. I'm going to have some
that's
mixed nuts.
That's not going to sound good. I'm going to have to cut out mixed nuts for the next hour and a half.
Lightly salted mixed nuts.
Okay, guys, so do you think that?
Oh, wow.
Oh, these are delicious.
Just a little
Got a
bit.
mouthful of mixed nuts.
I got some peanut shell in my teeth.
Hold on, guys. Let me get these nuts out of my mouth.
Wonderful.
All right, Josh, if you can, I don't know, not chew, that'd be great.
Yeah, could you have eaten like maybe an hour ago?
I did.
Hey guys, it's Josh.
I'm like
guys.
Brad Pitt on Ocean's 11. I just eat all the time.
Yeah, well, that's a movie. The visual would make sense. Just somebody chewing in the background in your ear. All right, here is our intro. Does humanity require a reset? And if so, what will guide us on our new path? A mysterious structure built in the 20th century, located just outside of Atlanta, Georgia, claims to have the answer. Today, I'll tell you the story behind the Georgia Guidestones.
Created by human.
Wow, Todd.
I'm excited about this.
Did that blow your mind?
I'm excited about this one.
I think that you blew my mind at the top when you said the big reset. Gosh, how many times have I been hearing that lately? It's
that's the
in
hot
the
topic,
news.
man. That's the hot topic.
The
And
big
maybe
reset.
that's
The big reset.
the great reset.
The great reset.
The great reset.
That's really the topic right there. But that definitely has a lot to do with all that great reset stuff. Those stones.
Yeah, them stones, like Alice in Chains.
Allison Change.
Alice in Change. It's a new band.
Allison some change.
Alice in No Change. Sorry. Would you like to round up?
Would you like to donate $1 to the Georgia Guidestones? The upkeep of the Georgia Guidestones. Yeah, we're Allison's change.
Allison's Change.
Oh, we can do a music video at the Guidestones.
Oh, man, there you go.
Make it look like an 80s self-help infomercial.
I definitely could see a good music video done over there by the Georgia Guidestones. That'd be something else, right?
Oh, that'd be great. Wouldn't it? A nice epic long hair metal band.
Yeah.
This episode is sponsored by Advance Merch. If you're a brand, band, or business, Advance Merch can service all of your custom decorated apparel, design, and fulfillment needs. From in-house screen printing and embroidery to full-service e-commerce development and support, Advance Merch is a one-stop shop for all your custom merchandise. Visit Advance Merch for additional information and submit a quote request today. Mention Created by Human to receive 10% off your first custom apparel order.
These giant stones were set up on a hillside in Elberton, Georgia, around 100 miles east of Atlanta in 1980.
Where the freak is Elberton?
I think it's Elberton.
Isn't that what I said? Elberton?
I want to say, I don't think it was you that said, I think it was Josh that said,
Josh.
Where's Elbertage?
Do you think he had a mouthful of nuts? Damn it, Josh.
It's that almond getting right the tongue there, changing it from Elberton to Elbertage.
Curly ass cashews.
I'm a productive person. I get two things done at once.
We need to make a trip out there sometime.
I know. I want to go out and see them. I want to go out there and sacrifice my goat to one of the slabs.
Well, you're going to have to let me know which slab once we get to that point in the story.
Yeah, I guess so.
All right. So these giant stones were set up on a hillside in Elberton, Georgia, around 100 miles east of Atlanta in 1980. The man who had them built remains unknown, as does the monument's true purpose. In fact, other than their $500,000 price tag, almost nothing is known about these stones at all. They're composed of 119 tons of solid granite and have coded messages that are engraved on them in the world's 8 most commonly spoken languages. So these rectangular pillars are also precisely crafted to track astrological and solar cycles. There are some who interpret the message here as a sign of the end of days. Others theorize that they're a call of genocide on a massive scale. What's the message they contain? Who built them? Why are they located on a remote hillside in Georgia? And, of course, what are they intended to guide us towards?
I have an idea. Peopleofguidestones.com. You get all these different photos of people at the Guidestones, kind of like the Walmart thing. We can make coloring
People of
books.
Walmart, yeah.
We can make, it's a whole thing. The peopleofguidestones.com.
People of Guidestones. I don't know. I don't know. Did that many people make it out to the Guidestones, though?
Well, maybe after this podcast, it's just going to blow up.
It's going to be huge.
Now that they know there's a .com, it's like, whoa.
It's open 24 hours.
Is it?
Yeah.
Do you
Why
have to
not?
pay to see them?
No, it's literally in like the middle of a farm field with like a tiny gravel lot, like with a fence around it. Like there's no buildings. It's
There's no admission fee.
by itself. Yeah.
That's ridiculous. There's always an admissions fee.
There's not even a visitor center. There's some horses.
Could we start a Kickstarter for them? Like maybe a...
For a fence? I don't know. I mean,
And there's our fake commercial. For
there you go.
$1 a day, you can help the Georgia Guidestones get a visitor center. Would you like to round up? What does this go towards? Oh, it goes towards some stones that were put out by a weirdo in a field. They're super expensive. Will you in? But they don't have a visitor center or any way to charge to see them.
There's no tour guide, so
Yeah. This is a good Kickstarter or a good, Publix, Kroger, upsell. There's a picture of the stones there at the counter at your local grocery store. And that lady asks you after she's finished bagging your bags, like, would you like to donate to the Georgia Guidestones just for $1?
I bet there's a tremendous amount of people that live in Georgia that have no idea about the Georgia Guidestones.
That was me until I think you mentioned it maybe a year ago.
Yeah.
And I want to speak on that. This is so funny. So where I'm from, I've you guys maybe through past shows, people picked up I'm from Idaho originally. And Idaho, if you know anything about it, it is a very big conspiracy theory kind of state. I love Idaho. I just know a lot of people who are into theories. That's all. They're really into it. I heard about the Georgia Guidestones there from friends who were all into this. Then I'd come out to Georgia. I come to Atlanta to work on my trade, my craft. And I'd say hey, so what up about the Georgia Guidestones, right? Am I right? And they're all like, the what?
What are you talking about?
You guys don't know about the Georgia Guidestones?
No. Yeah, I mean, and that's what's nuts too is, I've been here over 20 years and I've known about them for a good amount of years just because I'm weird like that and like to search stuff out, but I've never been. I still haven't been. It's under 2 hours away.
Well, we're definitely we got to do it before we
gotta do
die.
it.
This is a
Before
bucket
we
list
die.
thing.
Yeah. Before I die, I would like to travel an hour and 40 minutes away to check out the Georgia Guidestones. I mean, if I get time, I don't know. We're super busy. All right, let's go into the history of the Guidestones. How and why the Guidestones were built have never been answered. But here's what we do know. The monument didn't just appear out of nowhere. Right, Josh?
Well, do we know
That's
that?
right, Josh. Yes. No. Yeah, we kind of do know that. That part we do know. It didn't just appear out of nowhere. There is some information about where they came from.
What is the earliest knowledge we have on these Guidestones, Todd?
Ooh, do tell, Todd.
On a summer day in 1979, a man using the alias R.C. Christian shows up at the Elberton Granite Finishing Company, presents very detailed and specific plans, and tells them he wants to build the Georgia Guidestones. The only details we have about this man is that he was balding with a fringe of white hair and had an accent that suggested he was possibly from the Midwest. You know what a Midwestern accent sounds like.
Or Idaho.
Watch out.
Also, he had money, a lot of money. And the only thing he absolutely demanded was that he remain completely anonymous. To this day, no one has been able to figure out who he actually is.
Yeah, we know it was my Uncle Bob.
Bob had an extra $500,000 and was like, I'm going to put some rocks in the middle of nowhere on a hill.
Yeah, he also has a username on Xbox Live called RC Christian. That's Bob. Bob did it.
A lot of people have kept their mouth shut about who this guy was, and it was kind of part of the deal.
I mean, I keep my mouth shut about things you tell me about your life, you know.
That's right. Shut up, Josh. So, what Christian commissioned, though, was no small undertaking. In fact, even with as deep of a history of working with granite as Elberton had, they'd never encountered anything like the request from R.C. Christian. In fact, even if there was nothing more to the Georgia Guidestones than the stones themselves, the monument would be exceptionally impressive, a testament to the skills and ability of the granite company R.C. hired. But there is more to the Guidestones than the granite slabs. Much more. Some say it's mysterious, others say it's sinister. The stones were unveiled during a public ceremony in 1980. They were controversial immediately. Supporters like Yoko Ono praised their message as a stirring call to rational thinking. That should be a sign right there.
Good grief.
Yoko.
Where did Yoko come from?
Way to break up the Beatles. Opponents attack them, calling them the 10 Commandments of the Antichrist.
Whoa.
Yeah. What are the messages of the stones? First, you need to know that each message appears in English, Spanish, Swahili, Hindu, Hebrew, Arabic, Chinese, and Russian, the 8 most commonly spoken languages on Earth, which means the 10 lines on each slabs are intended for all of the world's inhabitants. So what's interesting about this, if you think if some crazy thing were to happen to Earth and a lot of people were to die, they're saying out of all the continents over the entire Earth, somebody is probably going to speak one of these languages and then be able to, go by the new guidelines, go by the setup. This reminds me of the Rosetta Stone. You guys familiar with the Rosetta Stone?
Yes, sort of. It has something to do with tying all of us to our languages or whatever. It's a method or what? Yeah, remind me what it is.
Yeah, so the Rosetta Stone is a tablet from 196 BC. Now, it was discovered by the French, who were doing an expedition in July of 1799. What it is basically when the English and the French and the Spanish would all go to Egypt and they were to look at all the beautiful monuments and look at all the hieroglyphics, they didn't know what they said. They didn't understand it. It wasn't a common language like these 8. It was a forgotten language to ancient history. Well, all of a sudden, they discovered the Rosetta Stone. Now, the Rosetta Stone had 3 different languages on it. The first 2 languages were both ancient Egyptian. The first one was hieroglyphic, and the second one was a script. Again, they didn't know how to read either of those, but what tied it all together was the third language, which was ancient Greek. These all said the same thing in 3 different languages. So they were able to take the ancient Greek and translate the hieroglyphic and the script. By doing that, that stone became the catalyst into us understanding the ancient world of Egypt. So in a way, the Georgia Guidestones are kind of a possible Rosetta Stone.
Ooh, yeah. Interesting. It's like a stirring call to rational thinking, wouldn't you think?
Well, there's a lot that went into this. There was a tremendous amount of thought that went into this Georgia Guidestones. And it wasn't, even a matter of just keeping it as secret as it was and not being public as to who was putting this together. There was a lot of thought that went into the entire process, where it's not just like some people saying, hey, let's put together something that's kind of like Stonehenge and, it'll be cool. It'll be in Georgia and people come visit it and they'll pay $1 to get in. It's not like that at all.
Yeah, it's well thought out. I mean, it even goes into, I know you're probably going to cover this, but I'll tee you up. You're right. It was like, hey, let's have star charts. Let's point to the North Star. Let's do a lunar calendar thing where a beam of light shows what year you're on based on time of day that it hits. It's just crazy.
As for the messages themselves, the first 9 reading up from the bottom seem to be benign call to higher thinking. Don't be a cancer on earth, seek harmony, balance personal rights and social duties, avoid petty things and laws, and resolve international conflict in world courts. So it kind of goes on like that. Out of all of these rules, out of these top 10, the number 1 rule on the stone will make you cringe. Let's discuss each of the 10 guidelines, starting with number 10 and work our way up to number 1.
Number 10.
Be not a cancer on the earth. Leave room for nature. Leave room for nature.
I like that. I'll take that one.
Not bad, right?
Yeah.
Be good stewards of the earth.
Basically. Tim?
What about it? What?
I was going to say, you're going to do our number countdown.
Oh, sorry. Number 9.
Prize truth, beauty, love, seeking harmony with the infinite.
Number 8.
Balance personal rights with social duties.
Sounds like something the Antichrist would say, you know.
Exactly.
Yep.
Freaking Antichrist.
Freaking the worst.
He's the worst, dude.
Tim?
All right. Where are we at?
7.
What if I just did this? Ready?
Thou shalt always remember numbers.
Yeah. Oh, I'm screwed. Number 6.
No,
Number 5.
No.
We're on number 7.
No, can I just skip ahead?
No.
Oh, okay. Number 6. All right,
We're on number 7.
6. Number
We're on number
7. Number 7.
Avoid petty laws and useless officials. Oh. Ooh.
Oh, yes.
What does that say?
I get that.
mean,
Okay, I know
right?
what that means. It's like that law in Idaho. Always back to Idaho. That law in Idaho where you can't fish off a giraffe on like a Wednesday backwards. Something weird like that. That's petty.
do you have a lot of giraffes in Idaho?
No, they just made a joke. It was like, hey, let's make a joke law, put it in the bylaws,
Is this a real thing?
Put it in this is a real thing. It's like
Dumlaws.com.
something like that. Like you can't, there's a bunch of weird laws all throughout the country like that. Like you can't
No
eat a
whaling in
hamburger
Oklahoma.
Stuff like that.
Can't tie a tiger to a lamppost or something like that.
Yeah, that it's actually, I'm sure there'd be a great website to look all that up.
So that makes sense of avoid petty laws, but useless officials? Is that everyone in politics right now? I mean, it's everyone.
Don't you think it's a little bloated? There's got to be some bloated.
There has to be. So is number 7 basically saying get rid of all the BS laws and let's get rid of politicians?
Sounds very libertarian.
I mean,
Who was president in 1980?
was it Carter?
Carter.
Was it
I
Carter?
think so. In the early 80s, yeah. I think so.
So it's Carter.
I think it was Carter in the late 70s, early 80s.
Who coincidentally is from Atlanta, correct?
He is from Georgia. Yep. I wish that somebody would come up with some type of device that you could, I don't know, type something in or speak something in and it would give you the answers.
Man, I know. I think about this all the time.
Someday somebody's going to do it. And it's going to be
search
amazing.
just anything you want. Yeah.
Anything. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. I can't believe it.
I don't know why they haven't done it yet.
I
It's
don't know why
2022.
either. It's getting ridiculous.
And the thing is, when you type it in or whatever this is, it's 100% true because it's just like designed to, answer.
Oh, it's accurate. It's
Everything
accurate.
on there.
Yeah.
100%.
And if you find something that's not in line with the way that you think or feel or believe, it's bullshit.
Well, yeah.
It's not real.
Mhm.
That one is not
Mhm.
real. The one that aligns with you is 100% factual, and you should tell the entire world about it.
This is a good idea, Todd. I'd actually put stock in this.
Would you? I'm thinking about calling it Bing.
Please don't call it that.
Is Bing still around?
Oh, come on, man. Hasn't even been invented yet. All right, Tim.
Okay. Number 6. 6. See what I did there?
I like it. That was good.
That's good.
Let all nations rule internally, resolving external disputes in a world court.
Ooh.
In a
Good luck with
world
that.
court.
Don't we have a world court? We have a world court, right?
We do.
The what's that thing called? The Hague.
It's in the Hague.
The Hague.
Hague or Hague or I don't know how this
Hague.
Hague.
But so read that again.
International Criminal Court. That's what it's called. ICC.
Yeah. Let all nations rule internally, resolving external disputes in a world court.
External disputes. So Canada fighting with America over maple syrup. We're taking this to the world court.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what it is. It's saying here that, hey, listen, if you're the United States of America, deal with all of your shit within your own nation.
Your thing.
You guys figure
but when
your
it
shit out.
becomes you and against somebody else, deal with it at the court.
I think this is basically, in replace of war, they're saying we'll have a world court.
Why don't you, instead of fighting over it and killing and bludgeoning, why don't we do it at a court where we're semi-civil?
Why don't we do it like civil adults?
Yeah.
Tim.
Number 5.
Protect people and nations with fair laws and just courts. Okay.
Yeah.
Of course.
We want everybody to be on the same page, so...
Kind of goes back to the number 8.
Balance personal rights and social duties.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of in the same.
Number 4.
Rule passion, faith, tradition, and all things with tempered reason. This is kind of interesting because I can see this really dividing people. And the reason I say that is rule passion. Oh my gosh, everyone has such a different passion. An American passion is totally different than a passion in China. Faith, rule faith. Okay. I mean, isn't that part of our biggest problems worldwide right now? How do you rule faith? We can't do that now.
Faith automatically is in conflict with the Georgia Guidestones. Nobody in a faith is going to need the 10 commandments from some guy who came out in the 70s writing it. They're going to go with something much older.
These Guidestones are set up as none of that stuff exists. This is kind of one of the only things.
Oh, sure.
You see what I'm saying? Like, this is one of the only things left that can.
I got to think that through. Yeah.
Right. I just find it interesting. Rule passion, faith, and tradition. How do you even do that? Like, hey, listen, if your tradition is to hang from needles from your entire body from a post, and that's your tradition, and I am completely opposed to that because it looks painful, how do we agree on that? And I think I know what this is saying, but I don't know how we get there. I don't think anybody does, or we'd be there. It's basically saying, hey, when you see somebody with their own passions, their own faith, and their own traditions, just be cool with it.
Number 3.
Unite humanity with a living new language. What?
Oh, now that is interesting.
Oh.
Yeah.
Unite humanity with a living new language. Now, you would have to force this. How do you can't, hey, dude, stop speaking Swahili, speak English. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, how do you unite? But this is saying a new language. This isn't even English or Swahili, or this isn't any of the 8 languages that he put on the Guidestones.
I got it. I know what we do. We all need to learn Tolkien's Elvish stuff. And that's going to be the new language.
Right. But who brings it in?
I don't know. A good
It's kind of like what we're trying to do now with currency. We're trying to create an international currency, and that's going great.
The thing that throws me off here is the new language. That means something that doesn't exist.
Yeah, we would have to invent it because the guy who wrote this, R.C. Christian, isn't probably a linguist.
Did Ron L. Hubbard do all this? Is he trying to create something new?
Maybe. That could be possible. Although I don't think it is. Okay. I don't think there's any ties to him at all.
Dang
0.
It. That would have been a cool story. Tim?
Oh, number 2.
Guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity.
This person definitely into eugenics at this point.
So I'm saying it's Ron L. Hubbard, dude. I'm telling you. Now, I can go along with the improved fitness and diversity. Like, this is basically just saying, man, be healthier, be open to whatever. You know what I mean? Don't
cool. Marry your cousin.
Yeah, don't be weird.
Yeah, well, we need biodiversity is needed for the survival of all species.
Number, drum roll, please. 1.
All right, so I had said earlier that number 1 was the one that everyone gets hung up on.
This is cringeworthy. Yeah, very cringeworthy.
This is very cringeworthy. So here's what number 1 says on the Georgia Guidestones.
It's kind of based off that last one too, by the way.
It is kind of based off the last one. Maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. To achieve a population under 500 million would mean that more than 7 billion of us would have to die. This directive makes some believe that the Guidestones are calling for a mass murder of billions of innocent people, a global genocide that would kill the vast majority of the human race. I don't think it's calling for that. I think it's saying we have nearly 8 billion people on this planet right now, and look at how chaotic it is. For people to live in harmony, they're saying They believe the only way that can happen is if you have 500 million people.
Which means you have to guide reproduction.
And guide death.
They're saying whoever created these Guidestones is saying 7 billion of you need to die so that we can get to 500 million. I don't think that's what it's saying. I think what it's saying is when it all goes to hell, let's get to 500 million and guide our reproduction wisely. Let's unite humanity into a new living language. If you start reading these rules backwards from 1 to 10, they start to make a little more sense. If it's saying that some disaster has already happened, not that we've created this disaster to get to 500 million. I don't know that the stones are saying that. What do you guys think?
I definitely think if you're looking at it, like you said, in the context of it being in a post-apocalyptic thing or thousands of years into the future, they unearth these stones and they've been having trouble, like, connecting languages that are from the past. And here it is. Wow, look at this. It's got all these languages. They all match. This is cool. This will help guide us with translations. Oh, well, and look at this. It also says maybe we should keep our planet under this thing. That's kind of an interesting thing. Yeah, so you're definitely looking at a post.
Oh, yeah.
Well, like think about the 80s, right? It was the Cold War. They were worrying about, more so than ever, atomic bombs, having a big atomic war. Everybody in the 80s, was, right? I mean, in those earlier days, don't you think? We were all kind of like on pins and needles, whether or not we were going to be alive or if one day we wake up and all hell broke loose like you thought. So yeah, I think you're on to something. But I will say, too, I think that this could be a catalyst for somebody to come along and go, oh, that's a great idea. I'm a influential person. I'm the Antichrist. They don't know it yet, but they go, let's get that population down. Let's figure that out. How can we do that? Could it be a biological warfare kind of thing that nobody knows except us?
Absolutely. And you're right, Tim. It could be very much like the movie 12 Monkeys.
Right. Yeah.
The spread of a virus, because someone has a belief in bringing this population down and restarting, destroying the government, destroying the population, destroying faith and culture, and restarting. It's only going to take a superpower, which means somebody who is in great influence over the world, that has the resources and the manpower to make this happen. And, that's kind of where you say, like, even Elon Musk, I think the guy is super interesting and fascinating and could be like the hero of the planet, or he could be the worst villain that we've ever had. So I think it's going to take somebody of that level to decide.
As far as biblical, let's talk about, because we're kind of in an area, a region that we're talking about here. This thing that we're discussing is all biblical based. It's, this is biblical eschatology. When you look at a Wikipedia page saying that people refer to it as the Antichrist 10 Commandments, that's a huge reference to Revelation. You have to go there. And with that being said, there is some things that happen to said Antichrist. At first, I think he's a nice world leader. And then what happens to him? Does anybody know? Because I do. It's kind of interesting. Well, he's mortally wounded, as if dead. And then he's brought back. And that's when ish goes down. Take, like you're saying, a guy like Elon Musk, who could potentially save the world. And according to the biblical perspective of what happens to us in the future, this guy, this man who we've all given esteem and value, gets mortally wounded in the head. There's something happens to his brain and he's dead clinically, and then he's brought back. And that when he's brought back, that's where he truly is endowed with the spirit of the devil, basically. And that's where he starts to really make some crazy decisions about humanity and who to worship, etc. Right? You worship me, you have to put a mark, etc., etc., etc. Perhaps you get a guy like Elon Musk, he's fine. And by the way, let's look at this. Have you guys ever met somebody who's had extreme brain trauma? If you have, they definitely have a before personality and an after. I know a couple professors in college that had accidents, and man, they were so friendly before the accident. And after the accident, it was like they were a different person. I do think there could be something like that and then they come along and they, let's say an Elon Musk gets hit in the head with a bullet or something, God forbid, they revive him. This whole idea of bringing the earth down to 500 million, that's not such a bad idea. They start to think crazy.
Yeah. Well, you can even take it into the current rumors of Putin.
Sure.
So the current rumors of Putin, the reason that he's kind of moving so forward with Ukraine and trying to take it over, there is a rumor that he has a tumor in his head.
In his head. Sure.
Causing him to act irrational. And then maybe even, talking about from a biblical standpoint that they say he dies, this person, the Antichrist dies and comes back. Maybe that's metaphoric, right? Maybe that's as simple.
Hard to say.
Right, it's hard to say, but maybe that's as simple as just saying, like somebody that has dementia, when you start to lose your mind, you yourself consciously, and I've seen it firsthand, are gone. So maybe metaphorically it's saying, you die. Just meaning you are no longer who you were before.
Right.
Possibly.
And it would take that death, physical death, to be maybe you leave, right? Your soul leaves, and the new soul comes in. The new being would take over because of your position of power, because of your grandstanding of what you say to the public and how you do it. You're now completely gone, and the being of ancient evil is taken over. We all know the devil, Lucifer, whatever you want to call him. He's taken over said person.
I mean, obviously we saw it a little bit with Hitler and maybe a little bit with Stalin or Pol Pot, and obviously tons of people in like ancient history. I mean, men can become monsters. And I think you can rewire your brain to believe all sorts of stuff. And that can happen to anyone. If it happens to someone who has great resources, they might come up with stuff like this. Because they genuinely believe they have a lot of power. And especially in ancient times, some of these people, they did have that kind of power. They could destroy half the world if they really wanted to.
The only way to find out is to decode who or what is behind the creation of the Guidestones themselves. Whoever built the Georgia Guidestones, they were determined to protect their identity. Let's find out more about the mysterious R.C. Christian. We've all heard of Ted Turner, especially if you live in Georgia.
Yeah, the hamburger, the Ted's hamburger, of course.
Well, yeah, if you want to go that way, young Josh, yes. Ted's Montana Grill. Okay, yeah.
Oh, and he named a stadium. That
he
too.
Owned a
Doesn't
stadium.
he have a TV channel?
Yeah, he had a TV channel, a couple of them actually. He had a whole broadcasting
old
network.
Movies. I think it's just old movies.
I think he actually had something to do with CNN as well.
Sure, that's probably right.
Anyways, whoever this loser Ted Turner was, this media mogul of America's largest individual owner of real estate. So apparently Ted Turner owned a tremendous amount of real estate nationwide. At one point, Turner agreed that the earth would be better served by a far smaller population than our present numbers, a statement that generated much controversy at the time. But while the idea expressed on the stones do reflect Turner's well-known global harmony and environmental concerns, modesty, humility, and anonymity are not qualities often or maybe ever associated with the man once widely referred to as the Mouth of the South. If the man behind the Georgia Guidestones wasn't Turner or any other high-profile, well-heeled philanthropist or visionary, who was he? Only a few people ever met him. One was an attorney, Wyatt Martin, who handled the legal matters related to the Guidestones, and who signed a vow never to discuss his client, a vow that he would keep to this day. Another was Hudson Cone, who was present at the Granite Company when the Guidestones were being created. Cone remembers Christian as a tall, balding man with a fringe of white hair. He was well-spoken and carried himself well. He gave no indication of who or what he represented. Anytime you have something with an air of mystery around it, Cone said, you invite different interpretations. That's so true. So those different interpretations, Cone insists, are one of the things that have kept Georgia Guidestones at the center of so much speculation and public interest. He has had people tell him that the site is the holiest spot, while others argue that it's just a profane location, a focal point of satanic power and ultimate evil. Cone doesn't believe that the spot or the Guidestones are evil. In fact, he thinks that the questions that the Guidestones raise are themselves its truest purpose, which I could buy that. I believe it was put here to stimulate curiosity, Cone said. We're talking about it.
Yeah. It succeeded.
Definitely worked.
What better way to get people talking and thinking about the nature of the relationship to the world and to one another than by creating an enormous mystery? and presenting the mystery to the world's great languages so that all can participate in its discussion. A big question that arises is, why were the stones placed on that particular hilltop in Elberton, Georgia? Turns out that there's a serious and mysterious reason for that as well.
Tell us why. Tell us why.
Please, down in the front.
No, I want to know.
Okay, hold on. So the theory of Earth changes, first propounded by the mystic Edgar Cayce early in the 20th century. Edgar Cayce argues that we are rapidly approaching a time of devastating changes to the surface of the Earth. Those changes could be the result of earthquakes, asteroids, a comet impact, supervolcanoes, solar flares, whatever. As we've seen, particularly in terms of the 2012 believers, but also as a previous apocalyptic believers such as those who feared the end of the world would accompany the new millennium when the year 2000 came around, or those who saw global devastation coming as Halley's Comet returned, or any of the hundreds of other doomsday faiths that have come and gone. The specific details of the actual apocalyptic vary from believer to believer, and some of them have already been proven inaccurate. What matters for the purpose of decoding the Guidestones is the consequences of the devastation. And those consequences include a radically altered surface of the Earth, a surface that will lack many of the most familiar features of the world that we know. What sort of features? Minor things like, California, New York City, parts of Florida, and other land masses throughout the world. But according to Cayce's Earth Changes theory, it turns out that in addition to the changes that would alter the physical face of the world, there are safe zones that would ride out the Earth changes, and in doing so, provide a physic focus on the energies needed to rebuild the world. Where are the safe zones? You guessed it. One of them is in rural Georgia.
Wait, now hold on. You said Edgar Cayce came up with this?
Mm-hmm.
Remind me of who he is again. Is he
He was a mystic. He was
a mystic who would go to like the pyramid and hide in a sarcophagus for a night or something?
He was a very strange guy. Yeah, I mean, Edgar Cayce is a pretty well-known mystic. You know, when people talk about him as a mystic too, like they don't really talk about him as one of the charlatans. He was believed to be the real deal.
So he says that there are some ley lines, some safe zones, some whatevers in Georgia that are going to be around till all hell breaks loose. And it just so happens to be in Elberton.
Yeah, so what he's saying here is he's basically saying that however long in the future, 20 years, 100 years, 1,000 years, Earth is going to change. The surface of the Earth is going to change. And we know that this has happened over time too. So anyways, that the Earth's surface is going to change, meaning that California most likely will plummet into the water. Florida is going to get consumed, that New York City will be consumed by water, that when you look at even just the United States, it's going to look different in the future. The purpose of them building these Guidestones in rural Georgia was because of the elevation, and building them on that hilltop in Elberton was because they would survive thousands of years of the Earth changing and would still be there.
The Bible talks about this stuff too. It's unbelievable as to what the Bible says. The Bible in Revelation says there's an earthquake that's so large that all of the mountains are now flattened and all of the islands in the waters disappear. And so that means it's this incredible worldwide felt earthquake. It's as if God is shaking the earth, and it says there will be no island left or no mountain range left. So that would be a pretty extreme situation. I don't know whether that's going to happen. It's all eschatological stuff that your theory is as good as my theory is as good as anybody's theory.
When we start talking about civilizations and how spread out they were, and, we're probably even talking about 500 million people on the earth, if not less, around the time of the Great Flood, let's say.
Sure. Probably less.
Probably much less than 500 million. People didn't travel like they travel now, not even close to it. Here's a great example. Back home where I was born is a small town called Keokuk, Iowa. Beautiful little town right off the Mississippi River. In that town, my family members would live just outside of town. When I mean just outside of town, like it takes 5 minutes to get to downtown, if that. But they're like, I don't know if I want to go all the way downtown. So the perspective, as we live here in Atlanta, it takes 45 minutes for me to go 15 minutes down the road. To go to the city, which is 45 minutes away, it's like whatever. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I want to go to Atlanta. But now I'll run 25 minutes over here or there, or 30 minutes, whatever. So my point being, when you talk about this great flood, they're only focused on their handful of miles circling their community. And if that area floods, the world has flooded. There's a common theme, really, that circles history, that circles prophecy, that even outside of these guidestones, which these guys, whoever created these guidestones might have been influenced by. For some reason, the number 500 million has become the staple number of people that is believed to be able to live on the earth in harmony and not deplete the resources and not tarnish the planet. That number comes up often. Why? I'm sure there is a story somewhere where it originated. It'll be fascinating as we kind of move on in this podcast to hit one of those stories where it's like, oh man, here's where it originated. Here's where that 500 million number came into play originally. But it comes up very often.
I will say, being a biblical scholar and having a history in that, I do know that a third of the earth is going to die. According to the book of Revelation, a third of the sea life, a third of the human and land life, and a third of the grasses of earth is going to die at some point. John, who writes the book of Revelations, could have been breathing the same oracle gases that the Roman oracles were breathing in. He could have definitely been breathing in some toxic fumes, which would have made everything he wrote could just completely be nothing. Whenever I bring up a story from Revelation or anything, I want you to know I take it with a big grain of salt because your guess is as good as mine. And I think that's where we all need to leave it. Part of me thinks that this Georgia Guidestone, right, it's got the influence of Revelation. It's got influences of pagan and solstice and all these other things, a big hodgepodge of whatever belief that this guy goes, hey, I got some money. I'm going to go throw out all this stuff I know. It could be a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But you get my point. Like, it's all based on a theory. It's all based on a hunch. His theory, whoever made it, it was like, well, this could go down. I better make my message clear to the world, and do my part.
So, Tim, you had brought up early on in this podcast about there being these astrological things similar to like Egypt. And there are. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, right. This is what you're saying. This thing wasn't just made willy-nilly. They really thought about the genius of the details. They wanted to really hone in on some important star patterns and stargazing.
The astrological specifications of the Guidestones were so complex that the team at the Elberton Granite Finishing Company had to retain the services of an astronomer from the University of Georgia to help.
Get out of here. That's amazing.
Yeah, to help implement the design. The 4 outer stones were to be oriented based on the limits of the sun's yearly migration. The center column needed 2 precisely calibrated features, a hole through which the North Star would be visible at all times, and a slot that was to align with the position of the rising sun during the solstices and the equinoxes. The principal components of the capstone was a 7/8 inch aperture through which a beam of sunlight would pass at noon every day, like you said, Josh, shining at the center stone to indicate the day of the year. Now, dude, that's some thought. This isn't just throw it up there. And yet, despite the confusion and mystery, or perhaps because of it, the monument has a devoted community dedicated to figuring out just what the mysterious rocks are for. And like most conspiracy theories, the quest will probably never end.
Maybe we could get Nicolas Cage on this, National Treasure 3, anyone?
Oh
or
my
4?
gosh, I would
National Treasure 4?
I'm not going to lie.
Is there a third?
I don't think there's a third one. I think there's only 2.
But there's a third. Isn't there a third? National Treasure 3 then.
They need
a third.
I love the National Treasure movies.
And we could get Nicolas Cage out there looking at the Georgia Guidestones. He's figured it out.
Or Tom Hanks.
You
get Tom Hanks out there. Okay, guys, here's the deal. Tom Hanks and Nicolas Cage, same film. Film. Both competing to figure out the mystery of the Georgia Guidestones.
And in halfway through the movie, Nicolas Cage has to take Tom Hanks's face, and Tom Hanks's face has to be. They have to switch faces too.
That's never been done before. That's never been done before in film. Brilliant.
It's going to be a great movie.
Oh my gosh,
this is going to be a great movie.
This is awesome.
National Treasure, Face Off. National Treasure 3, Face Off.
Literally.
Face Off between the the Da Vinci Code dude, and our favorite Nicolas Cage.
We got to have the Georgia Guidestones title in there somewhere.
No, I know. There's the Georgia Guidestones. They're the key to it all.
National Treasure 3, Guidestone Your Face Off.
I thought it'd be kind of funny. Maybe we could sneak out there one night and add like a 11th commandment or something. Chisel it in. Listen to Created by Human. Genius.
Yeah, brilliant.
A genius prank.
Yeah,
Got 'em.
they need an 11th.
They need
The long lost 11th.
Here, I'll give you 11. 11.
Well, 11's going to be my conclusion. So here we go. Thank you, Tim. 11. Perhaps the Georgia Guidestones are exactly what they appear to be. A list of suggestions on how to continue the human race, or what's left of it, once we've nearly destroyed ourselves. A way to avoid the future pitfalls that we as a species seem to continually make, regardless of the recorded history that is so easily accessible to us these days. Simply reach into your pocket, pull out the tiny version of Alexandria's library that also doubles as your phone, and search for any moment in recorded history. If we as a species decide to do the opposite of that horrific event from our historical past, we may never need something like the Georgia Guidestones. However, it is my opinion, along with my knowledge of our history, that the creators of the Georgia Guidestones most likely made the right decision in creating the monument. Unless we as a collective global society decide to stop the division, I'm afraid that a reset is all but necessary.
Thank you so much, Todd, for teaching us the ways.
That
future
was
with
wonderful.
the Guidestones.
I
That was a
learned
really
so much.
Yeah.
I'm glad you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you got some informative guidelines out of the
Wow.
Georgia Guidestones.
I'm a better person.
Let's just follow the rules, right? They're
Come on.
simple.
Yeah.
We just need to kill 7.5 billion people.
We're doing our best. We're trying. We're doing better.
Are we?
I don't know. We're trying. Some people are.
Well, for all of us here at Created by Human, Todd, Tim, and Josh the Druid, bye!
Bye.
Bye. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Farewell.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Now I gotta take a shit.
Oh, Josh has got a shit, guys. We got to get out of here.
Okay.
Be sure to subscribe to the Created by Human podcast. Leave us a review. Follow us on our socials at Created by Human. Head over to createdbyhuman.com for additional information. Sign up on our mailing list and check out our Created by Human swag. Does it just sound like gibberish? We'll be back next week with an all-new story that is sure to make you question, is it true or was it